Have you ever looked at a dollar bill and wondered about its story? It's not just a piece of paper. It's a ticket through American history, a journey filled with revolution, gold rushes, wars, and global power plays. Today, we're going to unravel the epic tale of the US dollar, from its chaotic beginnings to its reign as the world's king of currencies. Let's rewind to the late 18th century. The American Revolution is over, but the brand new United States is a financial mess. Imagine walking into a market where people are paying with a jumble of Spanish pesos, British pounds, French francs, and even state-specific paper money. To fund the war, the Continental Congress printed its own money, the Continental, but they printed so much of it that it became almost worthless. People started saying something was not worth a Continental, which was the 18th century way of saying it was total junk. This chaos was a huge problem for a young nation trying to find its footing. A new country needed a single, reliable currency. So, in 1792, Congress passed the Coinage Act. This officially created the United States dollar. The inspiration, the Spanish silver dollar, or peso, which was already widely used and trusted in the Americas. The new US Mint started producing coins, and for the first time, Americans had their own money. These early coins weren't just for spending, they were symbols. They featured eagles, images of Lady Liberty, and mottos about freedom and unity. Each coin was a tiny piece of propaganda, shouting to the world that America was a real, unified nation with big dreams. This was the dollar's humble birth, a silver coin designed to bring order out of chaos. As America expanded westward in the 19th century, so did the story of its money. Then, something incredible happened. Gold. The California gold rush of 1849, followed by discoveries in places like Alaska, flooded the country with the precious metal. This led to the adoption of a bimetallic standard, where the dollar was backed by both gold and silver. But this created its own set of problems, as the values of the two metals fluctuated. The real test, however, came with the Civil War. Wars are incredibly expensive, and the Union needed a way to pay for its soldiers and supplies. Their solution, a radical new form of money called greenbacks. These were notes printed by the government that were not backed by gold or silver. Their value was based purely on faith in the Union's ability to win the war. It was a massive gamble. People were skeptical, and at times the value of greenbacks plunged, but they worked. They financed the war effort and helped preserve the nation. More importantly, they introduced a powerful idea that money could have value simply because the government said so. The greenback was the ancestor of the modern money we use today, and it sparked a debate about inflation and government power that continues to this very day. After the Civil War, America plunged into its Gilded Age, an era of explosive industrial growth. Railroads crisscrossed the continent, factories churned out goods, and cities grew at a dizzying pace. But the banking system was like the Wild West. There was no central bank. Instead, thousands of individual private banks could issue their own banknotes. You could have dozens of different-looking dollars from different banks in your pocket, some more trustworthy than others. This created a fragile and chaotic system. Bank runs and financial panics were common, causing devastating economic downturns. It became clear that the country needed a more stable, centralized system to manage its money supply and prevent these crises. The breaking point came with the Panic of 1907, a severe financial crisis that nearly brought the entire economy to its knees. It was a wake-up call for Washington. In response, Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, creating the Federal Reserve System, or the Fed. This was a monumental change. For the first time, the United States had a central bank responsible for controlling the money supply, setting interest rates, and acting as a lender of last resort to prevent banks from collapsing. The Fed was designed to be the adult in the room, bringing stability and uniformity to the nation's financial system. It was the foundation of modern American monetary policy, and it fundamentally changed the nature of the dollar. The Fed's new powers were put to the ultimate test just a few decades later with the arrival of the Great Depression in the 1930s. The stock market crash of 1929 triggered a catastrophic economic collapse. Banks failed, unemployment skyrocketed, and people lost everything. The dollar was still tied to gold, meaning you could technically exchange your paper money for a fixed amount of gold. But this gold standard was like a straitjacket. It restricted the government's ability to pump money into the failing economy and fight the Depression. President Franklin D. Roosevelt knew he had to do something drastic. In 1933, he made a shocking move. He took the United States off the domestic gold standard. Americans were ordered to turn in their gold coins and bullion to the government. You could no longer walk into a bank and demand gold for your dollars. This decision was hugely controversial, but it was a game changer. By severing the link between the dollar and gold for domestic transactions, FDR's administration gained the flexibility to increase the money supply, devalue the dollar to boost exports, and fund massive public works programs as part of the New Deal. It was a pivotal moment where the government prioritized saving the economy over clinging to a rigid monetary rule. As the world emerged from the ashes of World War II, the global economic landscape was shattered. The major European powers were bankrupt. The United States, on the other hand, stood as the undisputed economic and industrial titan. In 1944, leaders from 44 Allied nations gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to design a new international economic order. They needed a stable system to rebuild the world and promote trade. And at the center of this new system, they placed the US dollar. Under the Bretton Woods Agreement, the dollar became the world's official reserve currency. It was the only currency that was still convertible to gold, but only for foreign central banks, at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce. All other currencies were then pegged to the dollar. This was the dollar's coronation. It was now more than just America's money. It was the anchor for the entire global financial system. This arrangement cemented America's economic dominance and gave it immense power and privilege. The dollar was now truly king, and its journey from a humble silver coin to the cornerstone of the world economy was complete. For nearly 3 decades, the Bretton Woods system worked. It fostered a period of unprecedented global economic growth, but by the late 1960s, the system was under strain. The cost of the Vietnam War and domestic spending programs meant the US was printing more dollars than it could back with its gold reserves. Other countries, particularly France, grew nervous and started demanding gold for their dollars, draining America's vaults. The promise of $35 an ounce was becoming impossible to keep. The moment of truth came on August 15, 1971. President Richard Nixon appeared on television and delivered a bombshell announcement. He was closing the gold window, unilaterally ending the direct convertibility of the US dollar to gold. This decision, known as the Nixon shock, brought the Bretton Woods system crashing down. From that day forward, the dollar became a true fiat currency. Its value was no longer backed by a physical commodity like gold, but by the full faith and credit of the United States government and the strength of its economy. It was a leap into the unknown. So, what does that mean for the dollar today? It means its value is based on trust. Trust that the US government will pay its debts. Trust that the Federal Reserve will manage inflation. Trust in the stability and productivity of the American economy. Since 1971, the dollar has floated freely, its value rising and falling against other currencies based on supply and demand, interest rates, and global confidence. And despite many crises, the oil shocks of the 70s, the dot-com bubble, the 2008 financial crisis, that trust has largely held. The dollar remains the world's primary reserve currency, the main medium for international trade, and a safe haven for investors during times of uncertainty. From its birth in a revolutionary fire through the gold rushes and Civil War, to its rise as the global standard and its final break from gold, the story of the dollar is the story of America itself. It's a tale of innovation, ambition, crisis, and power. Today, as we move into an age of digital currencies and lightning-fast electronic transactions, the dollar's journey is far from over. It continues to evolve, reflecting the ever-changing fortunes of the nation that created it. The next time you hold a dollar, remember the incredible history it represents. It's not just money, it's a piece of a global epic. Thanks for watching our journey through the history of the dollar. If you found this story fascinating, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world around us. Let us know in the comments what piece of history you'd like us to explore next. See you in the next video.